Okay, and welcome to Maker Camp here in East Durham, New York. In between Maker Camps, we do classes, and here I'm at the stained glass class, designing my panel. I was just going for something more abstract. I really was just here for the learning. I have done stained glass, but it's been more than 15 years. My dad used to do stained glass, and he taught me. And here I'm just laying out a concept for a panel, just trying to break up the colors. And this is a class that took place last weekend at the Maker Camp in East Durham at the Blackthorn Resort. Every year we do Maker Camp in the fall, and in between we do a few classes. And last fall we did that stained glass panel with Erin, the stained glass girl, and teacher of this class. I'll link Erin down below. And I refined my drawing by making it just thin lines. And the goal is to cut each one of your pieces to fit inside of the shape. And I was really more just having fun and just hanging out with friends, and so I wasn't getting too uptight about my piece. But here you could see how you can cut the glass with a glass cutter, and you could snap it fairly easily. It's much easier than you would expect to cut glass. If you've never done stained glass or if you've never cut glass, it's really easy. Get yourself some broken glass from a damaged window pane and experiment a little bit, and it cuts much easier than you'd expect. Find a place near you if you wanted to get into stained glass, and find a supplier local to you. You can go and ask questions. My dad learned stained glass from an adult education course that he took in Oceanside, New York. That was over 25 years ago. And he got really into it, and he inspired me. I did a big window pane for a TV show in 2007, and it's in Brooklyn somewhere, and it's still there. And here you cut the glass, and it helps the tape that you're going to ultimately see get stuck on stick better if you get rid of all the cut edge. So you just grind it a little bit, gets rid of the shiny glass edge, and also helps you fit inside your shapes. Now, this is the first time I've done stained glass in a long, long, long time, so it got me inspired to want to do it again. So I have designs on doing bigger pieces for the house, and it was a lot of fun just getting back into something I haven't done in so long. Now I'm just laying out my pattern, and there you can see all my pieces cut, laid out, and now each piece needs to be tin foiled. There's the scraps. I'm going to play with some slumping glass in the kiln. That's going to be fun. So now here, for the first time in a very long time, putting the foil, and that's how you do stained glass, or at least in the Tiffany method. You put the tape around the edge of your glass, and you roll it, and then eventually we're going to solder that. And I was getting tired of the bits and pieces of the tape foil getting tangled on itself, because like when you pull a big piece off, like a lot of tape, it sticks back on itself. So I felt like I needed tension. So I used the sheath of my ice pick to create tension about every 30-inch piece. You'll notice is just hanging below. The tension is being kept on there. And I found it real easy to apply the tape with a little bit of tension hanging on the glass. And then just to keep it from getting tangled on itself, I stick it to the table. And then with the tip of my ice pick, I was able to burnish the tinfoil tape onto the glass. And that's what that is, by the way, if I didn't make it clear. You put tinfoil tape around each one of the pieces, and then you solder them together. And then that creates the structure between the stained glass. And if you notice, my pattern is crisscrosses a lot. There's not too many straight lines going through the entire pattern. And it's fairly tedious, but it is meditative. If you want to do something that you got to keep doing over and over, but still provides a challenge, stained glass is pretty cool. After doing this abstract design, I have some more ideas on doing some more graphic looking shapes. Obviously you could do literal shapes, but then you're constricted by creating imagery. And you'll see some of the other guys in the class did some abstract imagery. And now here I am laying out all the pieces. That's going to make up my panel. It's 12 inches by 12 inches. This is Derek's piece. He did a lotus leaf. First time Derek has ever done stained glass. Ever. And this is Dave Doherty from DTB Fab, on Instagram. Dave did a fantastic job. And it's just a matter of if you're good with one skill, you could reapply it to something else. Dave had never cut glass for stained glass before, and he obviously did really well. This is Kurt. Kurt did a great job too, doing his Art Deco style initial. And here, Patrick did another fantastic job. First time ever cutting glass, ever laying out a design. He did an abstract turtle, which you'll see. This cross fades into the next day. And there's Matt. Matt did an abstract paint, but also quite graphic, with a little bit of a story, kind of a sunrise and a landscape. And that's Erin, the teacher, and she was just guiding Derek on how to wrap. And there you see Kurt's initial. That's initial for son. And there's mine. I'm ready to solder, and this is something I learned from Erin, to solder on an old piece of sheetrock. And there's Dave's, really precise, just like all of his work, really precise and really smart looking. And there's Patrick, first time ever doing anything like this, really fantastic job. He designed the turtle and drew it. And now this is the solder, and I learned from my dad to go in and solder all the intersections first, just to keep your panel from sliding apart. It wasn't quite critical in this case because it was pinned to the board, as you could see. But what I left out is you slather all your joints, or you slather all of the seams with a flux. And with the soldering iron and the solder, it flows real beautifully. And you could see there how I'm depositing the solder on the joint, going back and forth. And some of my joints are a little wider than others, partly because I didn't do a great job cutting the glass to fit perfectly together. Also because the tape rolled over more on one side than the other. But here I am just warming up. I wasn't really going for perfection. I was just really going for the action and the artfulness of it all. And you could see how you could lay down a nice glob of solder, and it is important to keep it even throughout so you have a consistent look. I found it a little difficult to do the intersections, keeping them nice and clean. And you see how I could lay down solder just to get in the joint and then reapply some more to create the higher, thicker. And sometimes I had to go back and clean it up a little bit. But what's nice is the solder obviously will not stick to the glass, so it's really hard to do it badly, if you want my opinion. It takes some practice if you've never soldered before, but the solder lands only where there's copper, so it's almost like cheating. It actually works so well. And there's the back, and it's the first time you're getting a chance to see the panel up in the air, not on the board. So I go over to the window and show it. And there you go. You can see that. And that little beveled piece was just some stuff that the teacher had. And in this case, what we did is we wrapped it with a channel of lead around the edge to cap off the frame. It was a little exercise that Erin had everybody do. I could obviously have put it inside a wooden frame, but I was just going along with the class. And since mine was a square, I cut individual pieces for each side. And you see me applying the flux and soldering the corners. There's a lot of room to make mistakes. And now here I'm just using steel wool to get rid of all the grease and all the soldering paste. And now this is a black patina. And you rub that on there, and I'm using a little bit of a Scotch-Brite pad as per the instruction of the teacher. And the Scotch-Brite pad helps get rid of any debris that's left over. And you could see how that really turns black right away. And I really like the idea of adding the black because it really made the colors pop, made it look like a cartoon almost, which redeemed my bad solder joints. The black gave everything more of a consistency. Now this is a wax that you apply to the glass. Everything, by the way, is available on Amazon. There's even stained glass kits. If you wanted to get into it, you could buy a smattering of tools that'll get you started. Also, look on Facebook Market. There's lots of people getting rid of stuff that they don't use anymore when it comes to stained glass. It's that type of hobby that people pick up, play with, and then never use again. Sort of like leather and stained glass. They kind of fall in that category where you could always get a good set of used tools from somebody that gave up on their ambitions. And there you go. And I soldered the two little eyelets to the frame to hang it there in my kitchen. And there you go. Expect to see more stained glass from me. Thank you to Erin. Thank you to the Maker Camp. And it was a nice weekend with some friends. And thank you for watching.